real honour and a privilege to be here today. I know that we do have a bridge climb to do, and if any of you have seen me or heard me speak, I tend to waffle. So my wife said to me, "Write it down, Cam, you got 5 minutes." So I wrote it down, and I'll get into it. So I was asked, why is mental health important to me? And here's a quick tale. 10 years ago, while living in Los Angeles, my wife asked me to meet her in the living room of the house. I walked in there and my 3 kids are sitting there with her on the couch. I sat down and Ali began saying, "The kids want to talk to you." So there was my 13-year-old daughter Lotus, my 9-year-old son, and my 4-year-old daughter Bodhi. They each had words for me about how unhappy they were when I was around. And it was devastating to sit there. And so there were comments like, "You're a yelly dad. You're sometimes mean to me. You don't listen to me." These were the things that my kids were saying. I was, at the time, already feeling pretty low. I had the coldest hand in Hollywood. It's just like a cruel place to be, Hollywood, if you're not working. And I was watching my contemporaries come across from Australia and just kill it. And we were going through tough financial times. I had no one to turn to. I felt really stupid. I felt selfish that I'd taken my family on this Hollywood path. And I guess the words pathetic, embarrassed came out for me a lot, especially when the Aussie press sort of got a sniff of what we were going through. They were hiding in the bushes outside of our house, taking photographs of me, taking loads of washing to the local laundromat because our washing machine was broken. But they were saying, "Oh, Cameron's dealing with trash," or whatever. It was awful. So Ali and I at that time, we sold all our treasures to pay for the mortgage, to pay for the school fees. We shouldn't have bothered because not long after that we went Chapter 11 and our house was one of a million that was lost in the GFC. So times were not great. We did have a few months though at that time to stay in our house, and I moved out of the main house and into the back office just to sort of get some family perspective so I could actually try and figure out what I was going through. I came across a book. I was doing a lot of reading, and I came across a book, and in that book it had a line. It was "Gratitude is riches," and I spent a lot of time thinking about that, how to be grateful. And I actually even got a pebble that I found on the beach and wrote gratitude on it, stuck it in my pocket. So every time I put my hand in my pocket, I would feel the pebble and it would remind me to be grateful for whatever I was doing or who I was in front of. And it started to change things for me, where I started to be, rather than be angry at what I didn't have, I was grateful for what I did have. It was during that time I realised I had no one to talk to. And that really upset me. And so I wrote an open email to the fathers at my kids' school, and it went something like this. "I don't know about you, but if you're anything like me, you're having a tough time with life right now, I'd sure like to hear how you're dealing with it. I'll be in my back room at 7:30 Thursday night. I hope to see you." 23 guys turned up. Some bought beers and wine, a couple bought cushions, some bought chips and dips. And it was on that night, which was amazing, I found out that I wasn't alone in this. I actually felt a bit of a victory, and I'd awakened a lot to the importance of my mental health and where I was at. So we lasted 3 meetings. It fell apart. We had no structure. I had no idea how to keep a group of blokes together. I'm not a therapist. But armed with the intention to sit with like-minded men and knowing that I was not alone, I stayed hopeful. And about a year later, one of the dads from school and I were on a working bee, and he asked me about the email that I wrote. And he told me that he had a team of guys that met and talked about their life, and he invited me to come and participate. So this was the seed of today's men's team movement. Once a month, we sit in a circle, the darker the better. We sit out in nature, no alcohol, you can't give advice, and what is said in men's team stays in men's team. And it is here in men's team that I've discovered that I'm not alone in my problems, and that probably the most important thing is a problem shared is a problem halved. And this has made a huge difference to me, and therefore the follow-on effect was to my family and my community. So that happened. 3 years ago, Ali and I and the 3 kids, we moved to Australia. We moved back to Australia. The kids moved to Australia. They were born in America. And it really has been like moving to a new country. You know, it's a different place. We've had to make new friendships, new work, find a new home. If anyone's ever moved a home, you know what that's like. Boxing and moving across an ocean and dealing with Homeland Security in America was really tough. But anyway, that's shit to deal with. That's what we all have. There's always going to be stress. There's always going to be stuff to deal with. I found that I missed my team. I missed my guys. I missed the conversation. And so after a year or so of moping around, I set about putting a new one together. And at the same time, I founded mensteam.com.au. I created a blueprint of how other men can set up and hold their own team meetings. And I was thinking about this, that we spend so much time keeping fit. We spend so much time trying to look good, worried about what we're putting into our bodies. But how are we staying emotionally fit? How are we staying mentally fit? And that's the angle that I'm taking with men's teams. So let's put a team together and let's stay emotionally fit. Let's stay mentally fit. And I know that through my experience the last couple of years of doing this, often when you talk to regular blokes, Australian guys, or ask them about if they're interested in putting a team together, they mention mental health, and there's a lot of cringing. It still happens. Like, oh, geez, I don't want to do that. I don't want to talk. And in moving back to Australia, I am reminded that we are the product of our fathers. We are the product of our fathers' fathers. And like Ed said, our dads, my dad was a similar, he he didn't dress up in the fuzzy hat, but he doesn't like to talk about his stuff. Doesn't like to, and our parents are our primary caregivers. So where do we learn our things from? Where do we learn our habits from? And this is the way it is in Australia. And we men, we bottle our shit up because we're supposed to have our shit together. And who's listening to the judge inside of our heads when we wake up? Some of us wake up at 3 a.m. I think a lot of us wake up at 3 a.m. with this incessant chatter that we're doing this shitty job in our lives. And most of us wear that, as Glenn said, we wear it on our own. And most of that stuff that we talk about is lies anyway. So, and if we don't open up, we don't tell our story and confide in each other, it hurts us. I heard that, and Karen would know this, and that suicide's at an all-time high. And I'm learning more about the tradies and where the tradies are at. And I read an article in the Herald, and it had a bit of it. It says a lot of guys had drug problems, financial problems, gambling problems, alcohol issues, broken families. But the hardest thing about a major construction site where you have gas masks and goggles on is that you can't look someone in the eye and see that they're struggling. There is, I don't think there's any quick fix for society's mental health challenges. I hear that 1 in 4 children in Australia is suffering from some sort of abuse, whether that's physical, mental abuse from adults or from bullying. But I firmly believe that if we're sharing our fears, we're sharing our victories, we're sharing our lives with each other, it goes a long way to helping this mental health issue. We all want to be heard. And conversation requires character. It refines character. And the exercise of consistent conversation strengthens the soul of the individual, and it strengthens the heart of society and the health of the family, the town, the state, country, ultimately emerges from the skill and the art of being able to have a conversation. That's what we're doing with men's team. And that's what we all need to do, is however you choose to put your group together, it's this, the power and the pleasure of a one-on-one conversation where we're listening and we're sharing. So, start a conversation, have a great climb today, and thank you for having me.